Hello, my name is Nelson Elgato. I'm an energy psychologist in Mississauga, Ontario, and welcome to the fifth archetypal pattern of change, which has to do with the shadow transmutation of impatience. This one hits close to home for me because this is part of my evolutionary path on this physical plane. When I was young, I was very impatient, go, go, go. So much so that I almost killed myself going down the stairs in a second story um, house in Toronto when I was a kid in my walker, and I found a way to unlatch the gate and said, "Oh, this looks like fun. Let's just go downhill." And my father had to ta basically take the leap of faith and sacrifice himself to save me from having my neck broken um, when falling down the stairs. So, yeah, quite traumatic start from with my shadow of impatience there. But growing up, I became a little bit more introverted in school because I wasn't taught English. I primarily spoke Portuguese. It's how my parents were raising me with the English language, with the Portuguese language as the dominant. I became impatient with myself and learning how to communicate with others in school. Um, Became increasingly isolated because I had trouble communicating in English. As a result, throughout, I think most of my elementary school year, um, was difficult. I always had a needs improvement on report card for my English, especially my writing. Um, but then one thing I probably had most difficulty with is having patience with other people. Um, my parents didn't have a lot of patience too when I was growing up. Portuguese parents just assume that their kids should know better all the time. And so I did my best to try and be as conscientious as possible to read the room so I can always make sure that, I was there to support anyone in case they needed anything. Um, but after a while, I grew impatient with my own parents and their inability to communicate effectively, whether it be how they're feeling, their emotions, so on and so forth. And I just became more increasingly held back in terms of like, how when to engage. And as a result, I had to be more observant than was integrated. So uh, I guess that because the first part of my life, or the first half of my life, it's more about being a hermit, more about being a little bit more distant away. Um, it allowed me to observe all the challenges that people have internally because they have forgotten who they were, and this is just all part of the process. The forgetting is part of the process. So I had to learn how to be more patient with people's unconscious, repressive, or reactive natures. I that sometimes too had my own unconscious challenges as well. But the key thing here is that um, over time I had to learn how to cultivate patience, and it takes more patience to cultivate patience. That's just the way it is. Um, and so I increasingly became more patient and more patient and more patient over time. But when I, had to essentially stand my ground and establish some healthy boundaries, that's when my integrity had to come through, and I had to um, state what I was not going to tolerate from people that is unconscious from them, and to remind them that that they weren't acting from their true sense of self, that there's something that is controlling their behavior, and it's rooted in some sort of fear. But I don't want to spend too much time on that, on me, more so on the shadow itself. This is really about understanding, the value of surrender. And so, in this, I'll be talking more about the elemental aspect of learning this lesson, and I'll be doing so in a way where I'll be discussing how one can become self-aware of their impatience. And what I mean by elemental, it'll be a story, a parable to help understand how impatience can drive us towards something that we think or somewhere we ought to be. Um, and that those things that stand in the way should be pushed aside, um, or that we're hopeless or powerless really to get to where we need to go. And questioning, what's the harm in just getting there eventually and enjoying the ride along the way as much as possible. So, without further ado, here is the parable of the willow tree and the river. Once upon a time, yes, once upon a time, in a tranquil valley surrounded by rolling hills, there was a mighty river that flowed through the heart of the land. The river was known for its great power and swift current, always racing towards the ocean. It believed that only in its arrival at the sea would it find fulfillment. On the banks of this river there grew a small willow tree. It was young, its branches are still tender, its leaves green and full of hope. The willow tree loved the river for its for the water nourished it. But the river was impatient and often hurried, rushing past the willow, pulling the soil around its roots. The willow tree branches would tremble in the wind as the currents grew stronger and louder. One day, the willow asked the river, "Why do you rush so? You have traveled so far, yet you seem never to slow. Will you not stop for a moment to enjoy the beauty of your journey?" The river, flowing furiously, replied, "I do not have time to stop. My purpose is clear. I must reach the ocean, where I will become one with the sea. Only then will I know peace." The willow tree, though young, had seen many seasons come and go. It had witnessed how the river's rushing would be destructive. It pulled away the earth beneath its roots, causing it to lose strength. Yet, as it had also seen in the quiet moments, the river would settle and reflect the sky above, creating a peaceful surface that mirrored the vastness of the heavens. Years had passed, and the willow tree grew taller, its branches reaching farther into the sky. One day, the river, still rushing along with the same urgency, encountered a large rock in its path. The rock was immovable, and no matter how hard the river tried to push against it, it could not move. The river, in frustration, began to swirl around the rock in chaos. It, its current churning with impatience. It fought the rock for days, but the rock remained still. The willow, watching from the bank, saw this struggle and spoke gently to the river. "You do not need to fight the rock. It cannot be moved by force. Perhaps, instead of rushing, you could take your time, flow around the rock, and let it be part of your journey." The river paused for a moment, reflecting on the willow's words. It had always believed that speed and strength were the only paths to fulfillment, but now it was beginning to understand the wisdom in slowing down. So the river did just that. It stopped fighting and began to flow gently around the rock, allowing its currents to weave with the terrain, embracing the challenge in its path with patience. As time passed, the river's journey transformed. No longer did it rush with reckless abandon. It flowed with purpose, but with patience, taking the time to nurture the land it passed through. It no longer needed to prove its speed or power. It found that the beauty of its journey was in the slowing down, in the quiet moments of reflection, and in the steady flow around obstacles. The willow tree, too, continued to grow. Over time, its roots dug deeper into the earth, finding stability in the slow unfolding of its existence. It no longer feared the river's current, for it knew that both the river and the tree were part of the same timeless dance. One day, the river reached the ocean, but this time it didn't rush. It embraced the moment of arrival, flowing gently into the sea, its purpose fulfilled, not because it had reached the ocean quickly, but because it had learned to flow with patience, to embrace the natural rhythms of its journey. And so the river and the willow tree lived in harmony, each understanding that true fulfillment comes not from the end, but from the timeless journey of patience, acceptance, and transformation. So, to recap this and the moral of this parable, the river represents the challenge of impatience, the desire to rush toward a goal, and the pressure to achieve quickly. The willow tree symbolizes the wisdom of patience, of letting time unfold naturally without forcing anything. Through their interactions, the river learns that patience is not about inaction, but about allowing the natural flow of life to take its course. The message of this fifth gene key is about realizing that the journey itself is just as important as the destination. The key is to trust in the timing of things, knowing that transformation happens not through speed, but through patient unfolding of each moment. Impatience arises from a distrust in life's natural flow and timing. In our modern, on-demand world, this shadow manifests as agitation. When faced with delays or disruptions, activating the sympathetic nervous system and leading to stress-related health issues. This state is often linked with the 35th shadow of hunger, creating a loop of fear and dissatisfaction. By recognizing and addressing these patterns, we can begin to shift our perspective and embrace the present moment. The repressive nature of this shadow is pessimistic, a fear of change. This state reflects a collapse into hopelessness, where the individual fears transformative change and distrusts their inner guidance. They become out of sync with their natural rhythm, spiraling into a belief that nothing will go right. Support from trusted friends or mentors can be crucial in helping them navigate through this crisis towards a breakthrough. Here are 6 ways that this can be expressed verbally. I can't see this working out. Like everything else I've tried before. I see myself as sabotaged by life, so why persist? I can't imagine persevering. The struggle is too great. I don't see anyone looking for what I have to offer. Eventually, an opportunity will come in, even if they are seldom. Nothing is a fit. Opportunities just never come to me. The reactive nature of this shadow is pushy, which has some sort of fear of failure associated with it. Here, unresolved anger towards past restrictions fuels a relentless drive to prove oneself. This over-assertiveness can strain relationships and lead to self-sabotage. Engaging in nature retreats and team-oriented activities that foster trust can help individuals with this reactive nature find balance and harmony. Here are 6 statements that this pushing nature of this shadow of impatience would express. It's too hard to maintain. If there's no promise of success, I'm going to quit. I feel restless about another way to succeed. I want more, and others can't beat me to it. I'm tired of waiting. I must push through this. I'll hunt down what I need, persist in tracking it, even if there's a risk of me being hurt. Life is a duty. Stress is part of life. Waiting is for the lazy. It's either do or die trying. And lastly, I commit until it goes sideways. Ignore illogical, irrelevant opportunities, even detours that reward patience. The dilemma here is of surrender. Impatience challenges us to release our grip on deadlines and expectations. It invites us to question our beliefs, about time and success, and to reconsider what truly fulfills us. By surrendering to the present moment and trusting in life's natural rhythm, we open ourselves to deeper insights and meaningful connections. Here are 4 self-study questions you can ask yourself. What triggers my impatience? And what underlying fears are associated with these triggers? Number 2, in what areas of my life do I struggle to surrender control and why? Number 3, how can I cultivate patience in my daily routines and interactions? And number 4, what practices help me reconnect with the present moment and trust in life's timing? You can access a whole bunch of stuff like sound therapy options, aromatherapy options you can integrate. Um, you can also take a 12-week realignment and self-empowerment course. That's all part of the shadow work for this specific gene key or shadow work challenge. Thank you for taking the time to explore this, and I look forward to delivering more content of value so that you can master and self-realize in this lifetime. Take care and God bless.